He looked at me like I was invisible, called me nothing in front of everyone. That billionaire thought he owned the world. But sometimes the universe has other plans. Today, I'm worth more than he ever was, and I'm about to show him exactly what nothing can become. If you love stories of ultimate karma and incredible comebacks, smash that like button right now and subscribe, because this story will blow your mind. You've never heard anything like this before. My name is Valencia Brooks, and 5 years ago, I was nobody at Tech Summit 2020, Silicon Valley's most exclusive conference, where billionaires decide which dreams live and die. I was 28, brilliant, and completely invisible to the people who controlled everything. For 3 years, I had developed something revolutionary. An AI healthcare platform that could predict medical emergencies before they happened. Not diagnose after symptoms appeared, but actually prevent crises from occurring. I had tested it in small communities with staggering results. Heart attacks prevented, strokes avoided, lives saved. This wasn't just another app pitch. This was technology that could change the world. But none of that mattered without funding. And to get funding, I needed to impress Sterling Whitmore, the man who controlled half of Silicon Valley's investment network. Sterling wasn't just rich, he was $50 billion rich. Generational wealth that had built railroads, owned oil fields, and created a tech empire that seemed untouchable. When Sterling invested in your company, doors opened everywhere. When he didn't, those same doors slammed shut forever. I walked into that conference center wearing my only blazer, carrying a laptop bag with 3 years of my life's work. The room was filled with people who belonged. Expensive suits, perfect teeth, confidence that comes from never worrying about rent. And then there was me. I had practiced my pitch 1,000 times, 60 seconds to change my life. I knew Sterling would be at the Innovation Showcase at 3 p.m., walking through booths where desperate entrepreneurs displayed their dreams. When I saw him approaching, my heart pounded so hard I thought everyone could hear it. Sterling Whitmore in person was exactly what you'd expect. Tall, silver-haired, wearing a watch worth more than my education. He moved through the showcase like he owned it, which he probably did. I stepped forward. "Mr. Whitmore, I'm Valencia Brooks. I've developed breakthrough AI technology that prevents medical emergencies before they occur. In our pilot programs, we've reduced cardiac events by 73%. He didn't look up from his phone, just waved dismissively like shooing a fly. Not interested, but I couldn't give up. This was my shot. "Sir, please, just 30 seconds. This technology has already saved 47 lives. We're talking about preventing deaths, not treating illness after." That's when he stopped. That's when he finally looked at me. The look he gave me, I'll never forget it. Not anger or annoyance, something worse. Complete dismissal, like I wasn't human enough to warrant irritation. "Listen, sweetheart," he said, loud enough for everyone around us to hear. The word dripped with condescension. "You're nothing. Your little app is nothing. Your ideas are nothing. Find someone else to waste time with nothing." But he wasn't done. "You people always think you can come to these conferences and change the world with some half-baked idea. You don't understand how real business works. You don't understand what it takes to build something that matters. Do yourself a favor and stop embarrassing yourself." The words hit like physical blows. The worst part wasn't what he said. It was that he said it loud enough for everyone to hear. Other entrepreneurs, investors, tech journalists, with cameras. Sterling Whitmore didn't just reject my pitch, he publicly branded me as worthless. I stood frozen as he walked away like I had never existed. Conversations around me stopped. I felt eyes on me, some pitying, others curious about the woman who had just been so thoroughly dismissed by the most powerful man in tech. Within hours, word spread through the conference. Valencia Brooks, the woman Sterling called nothing. Investment meetings scheduled for the next day were mysteriously canceled. Emails went unanswered. Phone calls went to voicemail. Silicon Valley isn't just about good ideas. It's about endorsements, connections, approval from the right people. Sterling Whitmore had just told everyone who mattered that I was nobody worth knowing. The months after were the darkest of my life. My team couldn't work without salaries, so one by one, they found other jobs. My co-founder started having doubts. Maybe we should pivot, she kept saying. Maybe try a different approach. But I knew our technology worked. I had seen it save lives. I had the data, the results, the proof. None of that mattered, because Sterling Whitmore had decided I was nothing. My savings ran out. I moved from my tiny apartment to an even tinier one, then to a rented room in Oakland. I sold everything except my laptop and the servers running my AI. I ate ramen for dinner and skipped lunch most days. My mother called me crying one night. "Baby," she said, "maybe it's time to get a regular job. Maybe this startup thing isn't for you." Even she was losing faith. That night, sitting in my rented room, staring at my laptop screen, looking at 3 years of code that could predict heart attacks with 92% accuracy, technology that had already saved dozens of lives, I made a decision that would change everything. If Sterling Whitmore thought I was nothing, I would show him exactly what nothing could build. I realized something that should have been obvious. I didn't need Silicon Valley's approval to save lives. The communities where I had tested my technology didn't care about Sterling's opinion. They cared about results. I stopped trying to impress billionaires and started focusing on people who actually needed what I had built. I packed my laptop and drove to rural Mississippi, to a small town where the nearest hospital was 40 miles away, and most people couldn't afford regular health care. I met Dr. Patricia Williams, who ran a clinic out of a converted trailer. When I showed her what my AI could do, predict which patients were at risk for strokes, heart attacks, diabetic emergencies, she was willing to try anything. We started with 20 patients. My AI analyzed their health data and predicted potential emergencies days or weeks before they typically occurred. Dr. Williams would reach out with preventive care recommendations. In our first month, we prevented 3 heart attacks and 1 stroke. 4 people who would have died instead received early intervention that saved their lives. Word spread through that community like wildfire, then to neighboring towns, then across rural areas where healthcare access was limited, and prevention meant the difference between life and death. I wasn't getting rich, I was barely breaking even, but I was saving lives, and for the first time since that conference, I remembered why I had built this technology. 6 months later, the Centers for Disease Control noticed what we were doing, not from press releases or marketing, but because they tracked health outcomes and noticed something remarkable. Areas where we operated had significantly lower rates of preventable emergencies. Dr. Sarah Chen, a CDC epidemiologist, called me personally. "Miss Brooks, we need to talk. What you've built is unlike anything we've seen." That conversation changed everything. The CDC wanted to partner with us for nationwide expansion. They introduced us to the World Health Organization, which was dealing with a global crisis of preventable diseases in underserved populations. Suddenly, governments were calling, not venture capitalists or tech billionaires, but world leaders responsible for millions of people's health. They didn't care about Silicon Valley politics. They cared about one thing: could our technology save lives on a massive scale? The answer was yes. Our AI had been trained on diverse populations that traditional systems ignored. While other companies focused on wealthy, primarily white datasets, we built algorithms using health data from rural communities, urban clinics serving low-income patients, and international programs in developing countries. This wasn't just technological advantage, it was paradigm shift. Our AI didn't just work better for underserved populations. It worked better for everyone because it was trained on real-world diversity rather than limited data sets other companies used. Within 2 years, we operated in 37 countries through direct partnerships with governments, international health organizations, and community providers. The business model was simple but powerful. Governments paid subscription fees for our platform. For the cost of treating one cardiac event, they could prevent dozens. Revenue exploded. 10 million in year 1, 100 million in year 2. By year 3, approaching $1 billion annually. All recurring government contracts. I recruited the dream team I'd always wanted. Dr. Amina Patel, a brilliant AI researcher, passed over for promotion at 3 major companies because she wouldn't play politics. Marcus Thompson, a former Google engineer, frustrated with building products for the wealthy instead of solving real problems. Lisa Rodriguez, a healthcare policy expert who'd fought for equitable medical technology access. These were people overlooked, undervalued, dismissed by traditional tech. People who, like me, had been told they weren't good enough for the boys' club. Together, we built something bigger and more impactful than anything Sterling had ever touched. By year 4, our company was valued at $30 billion. By year 5, $75 billion. We were saving over 2 million lives annually and had reduced healthcare costs for participating governments by $50 billion per year. Sterling's empire was crumbling. While we revolutionized healthcare globally, Sterling's companies struggled to adapt to a world that no longer worships Silicon Valley exclusivity. His social media platform lost users to companies prioritizing authentic community over advertising revenue. His investment firm missed sustainable technology because he couldn't see past his biases. The real blow came when he entered healthcare AI. He launched a competing platform with great fanfare, hundreds of millions in funding, partnerships with prestigious medical institutions. The technology looked impressive in presentations and worked well in controlled trials. It failed spectacularly in the real world. Why? Because it was trained on the same limited, privileged datasets every other healthcare AI used. It worked for wealthy urban hospital patients, but missed everyone else. Meanwhile, our platform expanded to populations Sterling's technology couldn't even assess. Healthcare officials who initially considered both platforms canceled contracts with his company and switched to ours. The tech press that once hung on Sterling's every word started writing about the new paradigm in healthcare AI and how inclusive data training was the key to real-world success. They interviewed me about our approach, our mission, our unprecedented growth. Sterling, who had dominated headlines for 2 decades, was becoming yesterday's news. I was becoming tomorrow's. The moment that made it came when Forbes called, not to interview me as an up-and-coming entrepreneur, but to inform me I was being featured on their cover as the world's richest Black woman, with a net worth of $80 billion. $80 billion. I had gone from eating ramen in a rented room to having more wealth than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. But more than money, I had built something that mattered. Our technology protected over 2 billion people worldwide. We had prevented 10 million deaths and fundamentally changed how the world approached preventive health care. That week, I received an invitation that felt like cosmic justice. Tech Summit 2025. The same conference where Sterling had called me nothing, wanted me as their keynote speaker. The day of the conference, I walked into that same convention center where my dreams had been shattered 5 years earlier. But this time, I wasn't carrying a desperate laptop bag. I arrived in a Tesla, wearing a custom suit that cost more than I used to make in a year, with security detail because my technology was now critical infrastructure in 43 countries. Sterling was also attending, but not as the king he once was. His stock had dropped 70%. His net worth had fallen from $50 billion to $8 billion. Still wealthy, but no longer the untouchable titan. More importantly, he needed me now, his healthcare. AI division was hemorrhaging money and losing contracts. Industry analysts said his only hope was partnering with or being acquired by a company with proven technology, a company like mine. After my keynote speech about how being underestimated became my greatest advantage, Sterling approached me at the networking reception. At first, he didn't recognize me. He walked up with usual confidence, extending his hand with the practiced smile of someone accustomed to being the most important person in any room. "Sterling Whitmore," he said. "Incredible speech. I'd love to discuss potential synergies between our healthcare initiatives." I let him talk for almost a full minute about partnership opportunities before I spoke. "Hello, Sterling. It's Valencia." Valencia Brooks' recognition hit him like a physical blow. I watched color drain from his face as he remembered that day 5 years ago. His practiced smile faltered, and perhaps for the first time, Sterling Whitmore was speechless. "You don't remember me," I continued, "but I remember you perfectly. Every word you said, every look you gave, every person who heard you call me nothing." He tried to recover with an apology that sounded as hollow as his original dismissal had been cruel. "But I wasn't interested in apologies. I have a proposal, Sterling. My company is prepared to acquire your healthcare AI division. All of it. Research, contracts, technology, staff. Will pay market value, which based on recent performance is about 12% of your original investment." His face went through shock, anger, calculation, and finally resignation. He knew he had no choice. "One condition," I added. "You step down from all involvement in healthcare AI. Permanently. Your name comes off everything. You take your money and walk away." Sterling looked at me with something I'd never seen from him before. Genuine respect. Not grudging acknowledgement of a competitor, but deep respect for someone who had fundamentally outplayed him. "You know," he said quietly, "5 years ago, I thought I was teaching you how the world works. I guess I was wrong about who was learning." I could have gloated, could have reminded him of every cruel word, every closed door, every dream he'd tried to kill. But standing there, looking at this man who once seemed so powerful and now seemed so small, I realized something important. My success wasn't about him anymore. It never really was. It was about the 2 billion people our technology protected daily. About proving innovation comes from inclusion, not exclusion. About showing the world that being underestimated isn't a disadvantage, it's a superpower. "Sterling," I said, "you called me nothing 5 years ago. You were wrong. I am everything your company could never be. Innovative, inclusive, and actually helpful. Nothing built this empire. Remember that." 2 weeks later, the acquisition was complete. Every employee kept their job, but Sterling was out of the industry forever. Today, our company employs 50,000 people worldwide. We've saved 15 million lives and prevented 200 billion in healthcare costs. We've proven that technology built by diverse populations isn't just more equitable, it's more effective. But the real victory isn't the money or recognition or even lives saved, though all that matters immensely. The real victory is what we proved about the power of being underestimated. When Sterling called me nothing, he thought he was ending my story. Instead, he was beginning it. He gave me the greatest gift anyone could give an entrepreneur. He made me invisible to his world, which meant I was free to build a better one. Every person dismissed, overlooked, or told they don't belong in decision-making rooms. You are not nothing. You are the future those rooms are too blind to see. Your exclusion isn't a barrier. It's an opportunity to build something they never could imagine. They tried to make me invisible, but that gave me power to see what they couldn't. They told me I was nothing, but nothing is where everything begins. If this story inspired you, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible comeback stories. Share this with someone who needs to hear that being underestimated isn't the end, it's the beginning. What would you do if someone called you nothing? Let me know in the comments. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting so successful their opinion becomes completely irrelevant. Remember, every no you hear, every door that slams, every person who says you don't belong, they're not stopping your story. They're writing the first chapter of your comeback. Keep building, keep believing, and never forget that the world's next great innovation is probably coming from someone everyone else is overlooking right now. That someone could be you.